My sister destroyed my wedding and my family, then tried to claim my unborn child as hers, but I revealed her twisted truth and ended her control forever. My sister, Pam, a 30-year-old woman, sabotaged my wedding, turned my family against me, and now that I'm pregnant, she wants to be my baby's second mom. I won't let this happen. For some backstory, Pam convinced our parents and several relatives not to attend my wedding because I was getting married while she was getting divorced. It didn't sit right with her. Since the truth itself wasn't enough to turn people against me, she resorted to spreading lies and rumors to convince people to stay away from the wedding. I'm a 27-year-old woman in my second trimester of pregnancy. My husband and I recently announced it on social media, which is how my parents and Pam found out. They reached out to me to amend things after almost 3 years of no contact. Their reason? Pam is infertile and, unfortunately, cannot have babies of her own. She has undergone several rounds of IVF so far, but none have yielded results. She wants to keep trying because she doesn't think adoption or surrogacy is the solution right now. They reached out because they feel that, since I'm having a baby, it would be good for me to fix things with Pam so she can spend time with a baby who is indirectly linked to her by blood. They said it would be good for me too because the baby could have 2 mothers this way, and I'd have some help. My parents just want to play happy family right now because Pam cannot have a family of her own. It's as simple as that, and I saw right through their fake niceness on the phone call. I told them I wasn't going to agree to their plan. It was totally deranged of them to expect me to agree to something like this. The fact that they even thought I would consider accepting them back into my life and allowing Pam to play mother and child with my future kid was just crazy talk. I told them if they wanted to make things right with me, they should have had the right intentions, at least want to mend things. Because I'm their family and they treated me badly, not because I'm having a baby and they want Pam to have a plaything. They took offense at that and told me they were just offering to make things right because they knew I'd need all the help I could get once I had the baby, and Pam was willing to volunteer for her future niece or nephew. They said it was all perfectly innocent, so I had no reason to be so harsh. But I told them I was the mother, and I already had all the help I needed from my husband and in-laws. If they found it easy to stay no contact with me so far, I advised them to do so in the future as well. Here's where I might have been the asshole. I told them there was a reason Pam couldn't get pregnant, and maybe the reason was that a terrible person like her would never make a good mother. After that phone call, I received a lot of messages from my parents, a couple of relatives, and, of course, Pam herself. All of them have been telling me I need to apologize because what I said was a horrible thing to say, and I don't need to kick people when they're already down. The problem is, I still remember what happened before my wedding, and I really resent Pam for what she did, so it's difficult for me to feel sorry about what I said. For context, Pam had already been married for 2 years when I was getting married. She and her ex-husband had been together for 3 years before they got married, and she had always known he wanted a child-free lifestyle. It was one of the first things she mentioned to our parents when they'd been dating for a year and started discussing their future. I remember being in the room at the time, but, as usual, they were pretending I wasn't there and going on with their conversation without me. That's another thing. Pam and I have never gotten along well since childhood. She has always been the darling daughter of our parents. We used to fight a lot when we were little, but with time, we just learned to ignore each other. So, that's what she was doing while telling our parents that he wanted a child-free lifestyle, but she knew for a fact she wanted kids in the future. Eventually, it was decided they would discuss this again when they got married, hoping by then she'd have changed his mind. Unfortunately, she hadn't been able to change his mind, and when she started pushing him to have kids, they started fighting a lot. Whenever we had family dinners, she'd be very upset and constantly talk about how hard it was to stay with him. But I thought it was her own fault for marrying a man who wasn't on the same page with her and had made it clear from the beginning. She was the one who believed she could change his mind, but now that she couldn't, she had no right to blame him. Of course, I didn't say any of that because I knew it would just lead to more drama. After a couple of months of trying to convince him, I heard from my parents that Pam had moved back in with them indefinitely and had left her husband's house because they had a huge blow-up fight, and at that point, there was no return from it. At the time, my husband and I had just started paying deposits for our wedding since we'd been engaged for a couple of months. We'd been together for almost 4 years before that and had honestly only been waiting to be in decent places in our respective careers before we got married. But we'd been ready for marriage for quite some time before that. When my parents informed me that Pam and her husband were heading for divorce, they also told me they wanted me to push back my wedding indefinitely because they didn't want me to hurt my sister's feelings. by getting married around the same time she was getting divorced. It was already difficult enough for her because she had to put her plans of having a baby on hold, and she really wanted to be a mother. They wanted me to spare her feelings by not getting married. That was probably the most insensitive and stupid thing they had ever tried to do at that point. Obviously, I said I wasn't going to do any of that, and I was getting married with or without Pam's support. She and I were never close anyway, so I didn't care how she felt about my wedding. But my parents didn't like the idea of me not prioritizing their darling daughter's feelings over my wedding, and told me that if I didn't postpone it, they wouldn't be attending either. That was really hurtful and shocking for me because I knew they had a soft spot for Pam, but I didn't know they'd be ready to do something like this for her. However, I made my peace with that too and told them they were free to do whatever they wanted. That should have been the end of it, but Pam decided she wasn't happy about me getting married, and took it upon herself to make sure the rest of the family didn't attend my wedding either. At first, she was only telling people it was insensitive of me to be getting married, while she was going through something so horrible, trying to gain sympathy. But most people only sympathized with her. They didn't actually say they wouldn't attend my wedding. So she realized she had to step up her game if she wanted people to actively boycott my wedding. Since the truth wasn't controversial enough, she started spreading rumors about me. She began telling people I was the one who had convinced her husband to leave her because apparently I was jealous of her and couldn't stand the fact that she was going to become a mother before me. The rumors themselves were quite ridiculous because I'd never been friends with her husband. I don't think she would have even married him if he'd been close with me at any point, but for some reason people started to believe her. She even started telling them I'd been rubbing it in her face all along, how I had manipulated him to leave her and convinced him he had a better life waiting out there. Apparently, it was also my fault he didn't want to become a father because I was the one who said a child-free lifestyle was the way to go in this generation. It was all a bunch of lies. I had hardly ever interacted with my brother-in-law while he was married to Pam. But I guess she lied with such conviction that people started to believe her. When I sent out the invitations, many people declined. I already knew why they were declining since a couple of cousins and other family members who were on my side had told me what Pam had been saying about me. So I wasn't surprised to see that nobody mentioned any reasons. The only family members of mine present at my wedding were a handful of cousins and a few others. Everyone else was either a friend or a CO worker, but the attendance on the bride's side of the family was just sad. I remember being very upset about all of this in the weeks leading up to the wedding. I knew I could talk to people about the truth and try to tell them, but they had already made up their minds, and a couple of them had even blocked me. Besides, it would just be my word against hers, so I didn't even bother. Thankfully, on the day of the wedding, at least I had my husband, my friends, and my in-laws to cheer me up. They made sure I had so much fun that I hardly cared that so many members of my family weren't attending. But even then, just because I had fun on the day of my wedding doesn't mean I've forgiven Pam for what she did back then. What she did was crazy and cruel, and it was very typical of her to make sure I wasn't happy just because she wasn't able to get her way about something. That's just how she's been since our childhood. Most people grow out of their childhood habits, especially when they were in their late 20s, but I guess I can't say the same for her. So, I completely cut her and my parents off after that incident, and started resenting them even more a year later when I ran into Pam's ex-husband for the first time after their divorce. My husband and I were out for lunch one day, and there we saw Pam's ex-husband having lunch with a couple of his KIO workers. It was a bit awkward, and we didn't think he would greet us, but he came over to our table that day, congratulated us on our wedding, and apologized for not attending, but that was just because of the situation between him and my sister. Since he was making small talk, we were polite to him as well, and my husband ended up joking that he might as well have shown up since Pam ended up not attending. At that point, he started looking very confused, and that's how we got to talking about what had happened around the time of the wedding. Apparently, she had kept pushing back the dates of the mediation sessions to delay the whole divorce process, and the excuse she used was that she was too busy with my wedding prep. That's why her ex-husband looked very confused when he found out she hadn't even attended. He had been quite shocked that she was taking such an interest in my wedding all of a sudden, but he didn't want to confront her and outright accuse her of trying to delay the finalization of the divorce because she was scared of leaving him, so he just dealt with it as patiently as he could. After he told us this, we told him what had actually happened around the time of the wedding and why she hadn't attended, and how she had spread all those rumors about me convincing him to leave her. He was actually shocked that Pam had done any of this. Then we found out the real reason they had gotten divorced. It wasn't just because he didn't want kids and she wanted to be a mother. It was much deeper than that. We knew they had been fighting for months over this topic, and her ex-husband told us that. After a while, he had started considering her perspective and had almost changed his mind. But then, on the day he decided to talk to her about it, she told him something. That made him change his mind about being with her in the first place. Apparently, after he told her he was finally ready to consider having a baby, she was overjoyed, and then joked that, even if he hadn't been ready, he would have had to come to terms with it at some point in the near future anyway. When he asked her to elaborate, she told him she had stopped taking her birth control pills and had never told him about it. If they had continued that way, at some point, she might have gotten pregnant, and then her plan was to just have him deal with it. That's so twisted, I can't even begin to process it. Obviously, after she told him that, he couldn't stay with her. That's what their last fight had actually been about, but she had lied to us and told us they had just been fighting about whether they wanted to have kids or not. Once again, she tried to make it sound like a joke, but it didn't take away from the seriousness of what she was actually trying to do, which was essentially trying to baby trap him. After that conversation with her ex-husband, both my husband and I got a lot of clarity as to why she had been acting so crazy during the time of the wedding. She knew she was getting divorced because of her own fault. Even if she had done the stupid thing with the pills, she could have kept her mouth shut, and none of that would have been happening, and she would have been having a baby with her husband. But unfortunately, she messed it up all for herself and then took it out on me. After learning all of that, my hatred and resentment against her increased even more. I could have reached out to my parents and relatives and told everyone about it, but I didn't because, by then, I was already not speaking to anybody who had chosen not to attend my wedding, and honestly, at that point, I just wanted to move on. So, I decided to keep my mouth shut and go on with my life. But my hatred for her runs deep, and that's the real reason I don't feel sorry about what I said. To be honest, I really do believe it's a good thing she hasn't been able to become a mother so far, because I seriously doubt that, with her psycho tendencies, she'd be able to do a good job of it. I also think it's quite creepy of her and my parents to try to reach out to me, just because I'm pregnant and they want to play happy family with my kids now. It's just not happening. As for my baby having two mothers, I really don't think that's necessary. Even my husband and in-laws agree. The only reason I'm having second thoughts is because of the way everyone has reacted to the statement I made, including some of the people I've been on good terms with. So, am I the asshole for saying that the reason my sister hasn't been able to get pregnant yet is because she won't be able to be a good mother? Edit, for those asking, no, Pam hasn't remarried, and she isn't dating anybody at the moment, at least not to my knowledge. I don't know much about her personal life, but from what I've gathered from friends and family, she is completely single, and the only thing she wants right now is to be a mother. As for why she doesn't want to consider adoption or surrogacy, it's anybody's guess. Personally, I think it's because she's the kind of person who believes that, unless you've given birth to the baby yourself, it's not really your kid. She's been trying for almost 3 years now, including the time she was trying to get pregnant with her husband, and after her divorce, she's been trying IVF with donors, but nothing has worked for her so far. At this point, most people would start looking at other options because clearly, something isn't going right with her, but that's not what she wants. And that's fine. However, I do think it's very weird that she and my parents chose to try to reconcile with me after I announced my pregnancy. That two mothers statement has really stayed with me. You guys also picked up on the fact that they specifically mentioned that this baby of mine would be linked to her by blood. That's partly true. She is my biological sister, so I guess her niece or nephew would be a future blood relation. I just think it's a weird thing to bring up while trying to reconcile with somebody. Their behavior just gave off major baby stealer vibes. I feel like, even if I entertain the idea of forgiving her and allowing her to interact with my baby, she's going to start projecting and acting like the mother herself, and I can't have that happening. Some of you were also asking why I haven't spoken up about the real reason she and her husband got divorced and why I haven't defended myself in front of the rest of the family yet. I just don't think it's worth it, that's all. After the wedding, I learned who my real friends were and who was actually going to be there for me and the family. I was very upset about it for a while, and I didn't think I should speak up about what the real reasons were, but I chose not to because I wanted my peace and quiet. Right now, even a couple of the people I'm on good terms with in the family have told me that. What I said to Pam about her not being able to become a mother was kind of insensitive. They're not really harping on about it and demanding I apologize, but they do think it was a bit too far, and that's why I'm concerned because these people have always stayed by me throughout, and if they're also of the opinion I was a little too harsh, I guess I have cause for concern. Update 1. Thank you so much to everybody who commented on my post. I guess most of you were of the opinion that I am the asshole, and I'm really grateful for that. I've decided not to apologize to Pam and my parents, and I'm going to continue ignoring them. They're obviously not happy about it and are playing the victim on social media and in real life by talking rubbish about me to my relatives once again. But that's really not going to affect me because the people who are talking crap about me, I already don't speak to them. What's the worst that could happen? They're going to cut me off even more, right? I'm not really worried about that. As for the people in the family who have been on my side but didn't like what I said, I chose to speak to them and address what I had said. Pam and my parents are making a huge deal out of this statement, and pretty much the entire family knows about what happened and what I said. I'm not going to interact with anybody I'm not on good terms with, so I chose to reach out to the people who actually matter to me. I told them that what I said was in the heat of the moment, and I can't deny that, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that what Pam did to me all those years ago while I was getting married, just so she would get attention, was much worse. That was all pre-planned. It didn't happen in the heat of the moment. She treated me with nothing but cruelty and disrespect throughout these years. And I refuse to be apologetic for something I said that might even be true. At least what I said isn't going to affect her in the way that her spreading rumors about me did. My family actually refused to attend my wedding because of the things she said. It's not like my opinion is going to actually hamper her hopes of getting pregnant in the future, so it's not the same thing. My relatives seem to understand that, so the people who were on my side initially are still on my side and have decided they're not going to talk about this at all. I'm fine with that. To be honest, I only want my pregnancy journey to be a happy and healthy one. And I want Pam and my parents to wrap up the drama as quickly as they can. I would really hate for them to keep dragging this out because then I'm going to have to bring out some facts, and they're not going to like that. I really don't want to be caught up with stuff like this right now, especially when I'm pregnant. Update 2. It's been 2 whole weeks since I last spoke to my parents on the phone, and 2 weeks since they've been playing the victim, telling everybody in the family about what I said. They've been begging everybody to boycott me, to never speak to me again, and to encourage even the people in the family who are currently on good terms with me to cut me off. Basically, they want their entire family to ostracize me, but, as I said, I was able to sort things out with the people who were on good terms with me, so they haven't been able to succeed. Obviously, they didn't like that. They took to posting on social media against me, and while they haven't mentioned me by name, I know most of their posts are about me. They've been talking about a particular person in the family who has always tried to ruin people's lives, who has always been jealous of Pam, and that's why I made fun of her infertility. While they were posting about these things, I didn't really care because I knew none of that was true. But then recently, they posted that I had been the one to ruin Pam's marriage, and that really got to me because once again, they were spreading the same lies they had around the time of my wedding. This time, I decided to hit back. I spoke to my ex-brother-in-law. We haven't really kept in touch, but we do wish each other happy birthdays and holidays, so at least we're on speaking terms. I filled him in on everything that was going on and asked if it would be fine with him for me to post about the situation, and he told me to go ahead. So I did. I posted about what Pam had tried to do and the real reason behind their divorce. Now the drama has hit the ceiling. I haven't really gotten involved in it personally, but I've been receiving lots of texts, emails, and phone calls from everybody in the family, asking me if it's true, telling me to take it down, and some people are even accusing me of spreading lies about Pam once again. But I haven't responded or been engaging. My parents and Pam have been really quiet, so I know they have nothing to say, but I'm sure they'll find their words soon enough. It's just surprising that, even after all of this, nobody has bothered to apologize to me from the family, but that's exactly what I expect from people like them, so it's fine. I don't really care. My main goal was to expose Pam for the kind of person she is, and I think I've succeeded in doing that. So, now I'm just going to lay back and watch what happens. Update 3. It's been a couple of days since my last post, and today Pam and my parents finally reached out to me and told me they were ready to apologize, but only if I would take that post down. Apparently, even though the rest of the family hasn't apologized to me, they have reached out to them and called them out on their behavior. They claim it's really wrong of them to paint me in a bad light when, all along, it was Pam who was responsible for the divorce, not me. They've been lying to everyone in the family for years now, and it has ruined my relationship with them. It's surprising that people from my family were so quick to jump from the hate on me bandwagon to the hate on Pam bandwagon, but, well, like I said, I don't expect any better from these people who were so quick to believe I was the one who ruined Pam's marriage. Of course now they're going to believe she did it herself, but they're still not going to apologize to me. Most of them have stopped texting me, and now nobody wants to know if I was telling the truth, and nobody expects me to take that post down either. Anyway, I told my parents and Pam I wasn't taking that post down until I felt like it, and at this point, their apologies meant less than nothing to me. They reached out to me via email, so I sent that message to them and blocked them after that. They didn't contact me again, but this morning I decided to take that post down because I didn't want to ruin the sanctity of my social media by posting about these irrelevant people. Like I said, I want to have a happy and healthy pregnancy journey, and getting revenge on people who don't even matter to me anymore isn't conducive to that kind of thing. They are the kind of people they are, and I think that's punishment enough for them. My husband and I are happy. I have friends and family who care about me, and that's all I really want. It hardly matters to me what my parents and sister are up to, and after this episode I'm hoping they'll realize I really don't want anything to do with them in the future and stay away from me. That's about it from my side, and I don't think they're going to reach out to me anytime soon after what has just happened. So I guess this is it. Thank you to everybody who has responded to my updates, supported me, and advised me on my posts. That really means a lot to me.